It's now been more than 400 years since the first enslaved Africans were brought in chains to the U.S. Yet, in spite of all of this time that has elapsed, millions of our people are not even one day closer to knowing the truth of our plight and condition. Millions of our people now literally walks around daily with computers within their pockets, our cell phones, which provides us with access to unlimited verifiable information. Yet millions of our people are insisting on assigning our plights onto a biblical fairy tale written by our most ungodliest enemies and assigning our collective condition onto a silly slave syndrome myth. This stagnation of our mental growth is proof of the mental enslavement of our people. The core problem is that the mentally enslaved ones have so normalized their false indoctrinated beliefs that they stubbornly defend those false beliefs. These are those Black people that have been brainwashed to literally function as wardens of their own mental prisons. Many Black people reject the truth because their identities are so deeply attached to those false beliefs. For many of us, those beliefs are so deeply indoctrinated into us that we fight against our own people that presents facts showing us that what we currently believe are lies. Many Black people are also afraid to accept the truth because of the inherent call for action that comes from accepting the truth. They therefore instead clings to their biblical fairy tales and their silly slave syndrome myths, which allows them to stay within the good graces of our oppressors. If you start thoroughly researching facts, you will then learn that Willie Lynch and Jesus Christ both never existed. Facts. The Willie Lynch letter was actually written in 1970 by Dr. Kwabena Ashanti. He confirmed it's a complete work of fiction. He described those symptoms mentioned in the letter based upon behaviors that he personally witnessed amongst our people during contemporary times. This is why the letter appears so accurate. The Jesus Christ myth was created in the year 325 AD by the Roman Emperor Constantine, whom himself refused to be converted into a Christian. He even refused to do so while upon his deathbed. That's right. The person who oversaw the writing of the Bible refused to be converted into a Christian because he knew that Jesus never existed. He knew that the Bible was a complete work of fiction. When the Romans created the Jesus Messiah myth, it was an ingenious scam. Its ideology that Jesus is the only way into heaven literally means that the church holds the one and only key into heaven. That's ultimate power on earth. Therefore, creating the Jesus Messiah myth gave the church immensely greater power over the masses. You know, sometimes it's easier to fool people than it is to show them that they've been fooled. The truth becomes easy to see once you start researching facts and start critically thinking for yourself, rather than allowing your oppressors to tell you what and how to think. When we assign easily proven works of fiction onto our long-term suffering, we in fact make damn fools of ourselves. Furthermore, when doing so, we literally function as wardens of our own mental prisons. Because in order to free our minds, we must gain a clear, concise, and accurate understanding of our plight and condition. Because if our understandings remains flawed, then all of our liberating remedies and strategies that stem from those false understandings will also be flawed. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach the truth. We need it in order to liberate ourselves. Here's the truth of our plighted condition. Because the white society writes all of our narratives, and because they've socialized us to accept whatever they tell us to think rather than to think for ourselves, they therefore literally owns our perception of ourselves. White social scientists determined a long time ago that by perpetually falsely negatively distorting everything that black people believes about ourselves collectively, they could manipulate us to perceive ourselves through a false inherent inferior identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance over our lives. Because the white population writes all of our narratives and controls all of our mainstream media images, it also literally controls how other groups perceive us as well. They've transformed this scenario into their greatest weapon used against us. They systematically distort our image in ways that serve their nefarious hidden agendas against us. More specifically, they vilify us to falsely validate their mistreatments of us. And they also dehumanize us to make others insensitive to our plight. Those two propaganda schemes were used to manufacture societal consent for their mistreatment of us. It's why white cops can routinely kill us and avoid prosecution by merely saying they were in fear of losing their lives when they killed one of us. The white oppressors also falsely marginalizes our narratives to marginalize our image, to create a false perception that they are inherently superior to us. Doing so creates and sustains false assumptions within the society that aids them in maintaining their white social dominance and white social capital over the black population. And they constantly subjects us to receiving only the fraudulent, worst possible narratives about ourselves. Because doing so demoralizes us, divides us, creates black self-loathing, and it shifts our collective aggressions away from the white society and redirects it towards ourselves. It's the truth of our plight and condition. And as long as we're kept within this condition, we can then be ruled over forever. This is the absolute truth of our plight and condition. Those who are insisting that our collective condition is caused by a silly slave syndrome myth does so because they are ignorant of the truth. Whenever people are ignorant of the truth, they will always believe nonsense. There's more. A fact that has remained consistent throughout world history is that the oppressor's depiction of the oppressed is never a true one. It's always falsely distorted to serve the oppressor's nefarious hidden agendas against the oppressed. That fact still continues today in regards to black people living under white oppression. The white society's negative depiction of the black population is an elaborate white deception. They falsely negatively distorted the image of the black population to create and sustain false assumptions within the society that greatly aids in maintaining white social dominance over the black population. Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. We view reality based upon our perception shaped by the information that we receive. But the information that we receive have been deliberately distorted by the white controllers of the information that we receive. The hidden true reality is that in the U.S., most violent crimes are in fact actually committed by Caucasians. FBI data reveals that most violent crimes in the U.S. are in fact committed by Caucasians. Most cops in the U.S. have been killed by Caucasians. Caucasians are also more likely than any other racial group to be serial killers, to commit mass shootings, and to commit violent hate crimes. Caucasians are also more likely than any other racial group to kill a family member for financial gain, and more likely than any other group to kill a parent. These are all facts proven by FBI data. Okay, these are all confirmed by FBI data. There's also data that reveals that the largest recipient of welfare are in fact Caucasians, and reveals that the largest benefactors of affirmative action has been Caucasian women. Therefore, by extension, the white society has benefited most from affirmative action. Your perception is a white deception created by lies. The true reality is the exact opposite from what they misled you to believe. There's more. Case, point, and proof. After slavery was abolished in the U.S. in 1865, and in spite of receiving no reparations and being constantly plagued by white racism, subjugation tactics, from 1870 through 1940, African Americans submitted 726 invention patents applications to the U.S. Patent Office. Not only is it an extraordinary achievement under those noted circumstances and so closely following slavery, but this number more than doubled those applications submitted by Caucasian during the same time frame, and in spite of the fact that African Americans then made up less than 3% of the U.S. population. This is extraordinary. This scenario of black people outpacing Caucasians in the inventions of revolutionizing inventions has never stopped. It's merely concealed from the public through the white society's monopoly over information. It distorts facts to exalt themselves and to marginalize us. All you have to do is keep repeating lies through media ads, falsely scripted movies, miseducation, and before long, the majority of the population will then accept those lies rather than what's actually true. Those lies will become the truth that the public believes and then function based upon. This is precisely what the white society has done. By falsely feeding false information that exalts themselves, they've whitewashed the perception of reality. The white society sits upon a throne of white exalting and black marginalizing lies. Through their monopoly over information and media images that are fed into the society, the white ruling class have manipulated millions to believe that most inventions that revolutionized the world were invented by Caucasians, and to perceive black people as being the leeches of society that haven't invented much throughout history. Many believe this. This widely shared perception is the reason for the false feeling of superiority that many whites hold. And it's the reason for the false feeling of inferiority or self-loathing held by many black people. But those narratives are false. The truth is the exact opposite from what they've manipulated millions to believe. The hidden reality is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustice of slavery and continued white racism, most inventions that revolutionized the entire world were in fact either invented by black people or were directly inspired by earlier inventions made by black people. The true reality is that without black people, there would exist no motors, no automobiles, no airplanes, no helicopters. Without black people, we would have no skyscrapers. We only have skyscrapers because black people invented the elevator, the fire extinguisher, the fire escape ladder, air conditioning, and heaters, which are essential in order for people to live and work in skyscrapers. Without black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't have cameras and microphones on our cell phone if it wasn't for black inventors. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have the cataract laser removal scope that's given sight to millions around the world. There'd be no emails, no GPS, no hearing aids, no touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security systems, no home game cartridges, no steam engines, no traffic lights. Without black people, there would exist no refrigerators, no refrigerated trucks, therefore no ice cream trucks, no blood banks, no dry cleaning, no lawnmowers, no pencil sharpener, no doorknobs, no 3D movies, etc., etc. Through the white society's monopoly over information that are fed into our society, they have whitewashed the perception of reality by feeding white exalting and black marginalizing narratives into our society. The reality is black people have in fact enriched nearly the lives of every person on this planet through our many inventions. But our society does not live based upon this reality. We live based upon the false narrative that exalts whites. You see, in order for black inventors to get their inventions mass produced, they have to go before white companies. These white companies acquire the rights to these inventions and then places white faces in front of the technology. Also, the patent office has always been used to steal the intellectual property rights from black inventors. This scenario allows the white society to continue exploiting the genius minds of black people while maintaining the perception that most inventions are coming from the great minds of Caucasians. The illusion. According to social science, perception is more important than reality for controlling society because people function based upon their perception of reality. So the white society feeds propaganda that creates a perception of white racial superiority. And this perception gives them their power over us because the perception affects hiring, firing, promotions, retentions. Our society function based upon those narratives. All societies function based upon the information that are fed into our society. And the information fed into our society are distorted to keep the society functioning in ways that aids in maintaining white social dominance over the black population. Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. You have to elevate your mind from believing all the dumb shit and learn that it's a social science for maintaining white dominance. Learn the truth to free your mind. One love and peace.